I really do see 2025 as a year of a collective shift for women in claiming their own needs, pleasure, self worth, and just being like, whoa, 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 things are not right here. This is not sustainable. And maybe even experiencing shaky ground in themselves or their relationship as they're not able to tolerate what they used to be able to.
Welcome back to True Northing, where we break down the psychology behind what you're experiencing and why. We're so happy you're here. I have been noticing recently, and I want to say I notice this every winter. I tend to have way more sugar cravings, and I feel like I can eat so much more. Like I don't get full easily, and I end up overindulging and I have less self control when it comes to food. I don't know if anyone else has been experiencing this, but I took to ChatGPT to see if this was a normal thing. And I know I sent you a message like, do you experience this too? And I wanted to share. So ChatGPT says this is very common during winter because of changes in light, hormones, temperature, and routine. So because there's less daylight, our brain chemistry shifts where serotonin drops and melatonin increases. And then we also have changes in two key hormones, leptin and ghrelin. Am I saying that right, Al?
I don't know. I
Okay.
know leptin. I don't know the other one.
I know, I'd never heard of the other one either. So apparently leptin signals fullness and ghrelin, if I'm saying that right, signals hunger. And so those get thrown off with the season two, where feel like we can eat more and still don't feel satisfied or full. And then there's all kinds of other reasons that ChatGPT goes into, which I won't go into. I mean, you can search for this yourself, but I just thought that was so interesting and validating to hear that it's not just me emotional binging because of like the comfort and whatever else I was trying to analyze myself.
You're like, what's going on here? What's happening?
Yeah.
And it all makes sense with the hormones and biologically, but I wonder if there's like a function to it. Like, as you had mentioned in your text, winter, gaining weight, like there's an intelligence to it. Did you gather that from?
That didn't come up, but that really resonates with me, right? So when we think about historically what our ancestors went through in the winter and like hibernating, it makes sense to me that the body would naturally be wanting to store energy and fat. So yeah, that during the winter, your body's like, give me more so that I can pack it away for the winter.
Hmm. Well, I thought it was kind of fascinating when I moved from the warmer climate in California to more up in the northern Arizona mountains where it's cooler in winter. Like I gained some extra weight because it snows here. It didn't snow in California and not a lot, but I was like, oh, it's almost like my homeostasis changed a bit based on where I'm living. And of course it gets really hot here, so I'm not sure if that's totally balanced perspective, but I did have the thought of like, oh, well, I wonder if my body has just changed a little bit based on where I live. Um, and that could make sense in what you're saying of just even like how hormones change or how the light affects it and all these different things to consider, how our body adapts.
Yeah, it's fascinating how the temperature and the season and all these factors come into play. So today this is our last episode before the new year, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we thought we would do a little bit of a recap, kind of the highlight reel of our year with True Northing and the topics that have come up, the conversations we've had, the insights, the feedback we've gotten. Yeah, kind of like a highlight reel replay of 2025 and then how that how we're taking that into 2026.
It's amazing to look at the variety of topics that we've covered. And I think with True Northing, we created the podcast that we would love to listen to. And what's so unique about this podcast is the range of topics. We're both parents, we're therapists, we're women in the world navigating healing and health and wellness and everything that comes along with that, relationships. And with that, is really reflected in what we discuss and discover together. And so this year we've covered topics on soulmates and teenagers and
Sex,
yep,
sex, relationships, communication, true northing, authenticity, finding yourself, healing trauma, so many different topics. And there is a huge range of topics, and what I love is that these are things that we enjoy talking about and thinking about in our day-to-day lives and with each other for years now. And a lot of people are talking about these different topics, but what we bring is the psychology piece that we actually are trained therapists. And so it's so fun to be moving through these parts of being human and these day-to-day experiences and being in relationship and being able to look at them with this psychology lens and kind of break it down. I find it all fascinating, and we're so happy to share it with all of you.
yeah. And thank you all for helping us end the year strong.
Mhm.
Just and I hope that if you're new to tuning in here, go back, check out some of our episodes. They're really rich. They bring so much interesting inquiry and reflection and insight. And Chris and I were just talking like we want to go back. We want to go back and listen to some of these episodes and also bring in some of what we've learned into the new year.
Right. Processing in real time as we've been experiencing things. And our whole mission with all of this is aside from having interesting conversation, guiding people back to their true north, right? Guiding you back to you, your true self as you navigate life and relationships and parenthood and all of these aspects of being human.
Totally. That is the mission is to bring you back to yourself and to guide us all back to ourselves and to encourage your own curiosity and reflection of your own life and oh, that resonates with me or oh, yeah, I never thought about it that way or I really see myself in this conversation and maybe I didn't have permission to think this way before. And so, yeah, our mission is supporting you to become the ultimate version of you and blossom more and more into that. And that brings so much joy to me just saying that. I'm like, yeah.
We need you in your authentic essence.
Yeah.
So let's think about our favorite episode from the year.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
would love to do that. Tell us, Allie, what is your favorite?
So looking back, I've got a few, but the ones that really stuck out to me were episode 31, Rejection is Redirection. And I just felt like that was such a vulnerable but strong episode to really look at how facing no's in our life, receiving no's, can help us reflect and strengthen who we are instead of depleting who we are. And I just love that. And I think that message can be shared more and more of like rejection doesn't have to mean you need to be less of who you are. It can support you to be more of who you are. I also loved our episode 10, Are They Your Soulmate or a Mirror of Your Past? Because I think that one brought in so much varied insight, like psychologically rich insight, but also spiritually rich insight and different perspectives and ways to look at soulmates and relationships through attachment or bonding. And just really, I just felt like it was a really deep and rich episode that we had with great conversation and personal experience.
I think we need to have a follow-up episode on that one too, like
Yeah.
so many of these topics, because there are so many pieces to that.
Hmm.
You're meeting your quote unquote soulmate or, your partner, who am I attracted to and what am I experiencing, even biologically, thinking about what is happening and why. And I mean, obviously, as an imago therapist, I do believe we attract partners based on our wounding from childhood and our childhood template of love. And so there's that, right? Am I me did I attract my partner based on my wounding or is this really just my soulmate? And is there a difference or is it the same thing? So that was a a fascinating conversation as well where we kind of go into some of those pieces and I would love to revisit it for sure.
Yeah, me too. And I think lastly, the teen. I love talking about teens. And so those were great too. All of our teen episodes of
Yeah,
girls. Appreciated those conversations because if you're new here, Chris and I met when we were 11. We went through our teen years together and have just had a really interesting perspective about the teen years and really brought our experience into our psychological training and had a passion for understanding more about teen girls and um, so it's really special that we went through those years and the struggles together and then went on a whole journey of research and discovery and something we've been able to talk about and reflect on and then bring it forward in these episodes was really exciting.
I loved that too. Yeah, we had kind of that three-part series. What were they? We can link to them. Episode 35, 36, 37. If you are raising a teen girl or processing your own experience as a teen girl, definitely go back and listen to those. And we'll link all of these below too. Was there more you wanted to say about that?
I wanted to ask you of your favorites.
I think my favorite episode, when I thought about this question, the first one that came immediately to mind was episode 19, the mother wound in men. And in that episode, we're speaking specifically about men, but really it's just the mother wound in general, which affects everybody. So, um, thinking about the ways that men show up today and how we experience the men in our lives, and we're all wounded, right? We're all wounded in some way, and so this was just a way for us to explore together how the mother wound in particular impacts men, how that can show up later in life for them in the relationships as parents or romantically. Yeah, what that looks like in men in adulthood and how we can spot that mother wound when we're in relationship with a man, how we can nurture it, how we can help them heal and grow, how we can show up for them, with them, for ourselves when we're in that dynamic. Yeah, I think it's so fascinating
Uh-huh.
and really connects to our, I think, most highly streamed episode, which was episode 40, which goes into the high capacity man and the low capacity man. And so that low capacity man ties in beautifully to that mother wound episode where we really focused on understanding the roots, the origin story of how a boy is raised in connection to his mother and how that can create the low capacity man.
Yeah, that's so true, tying those together. And so much more to discover and talk about there.
Definitely. So I'm thinking about key takeaways
Mm.
for the year. So, outside of these particular episodes that we really loved and wanted to highlight, what are some of the messages or core insights that you experienced this year or that we talked about? What comes to mind for you that you want to kind of reflect back to listeners about 2025?
Yeah, I think such a big theme this last year in True Northing and for us was about really understanding, discovering, and claiming who you are. And we talked about this in the seasons of being, honoring your different seasons and cycles. We talked about this in like the episode on selfish or self worthy, like really honoring your worth. And on episodes of authenticity or relationships, I think that it's really about coming home to yourself. And I think that's something that we've supported our listeners in the discovery of, and going into 2026 is really the embodiment of that, living that fully. And yeah, also understanding themselves in relationships, understanding their loved ones, um, how they relate, how they connect. And so, yeah, I feel like that was a really big theme for this year.
Am I when I peel back the layers of my conditioning or my wounding?
Yeah, totally thinking of the episodes on healing that we've done. And healing is not becoming someone new, it's becoming who you are. It's removing all the conditioning to who you thought you were, who you thought you should be, who you were told you should be to become who you are. And yeah, healing isn't performance and coming outside of yourself. It's a coming home and a settling.
Such an important piece related to this, related to coming home to yourself and really connecting to who you are, is looking at the situations that you've been in, the relationships you've attracted, the no's that you received that felt like rejection, and using all of that, approaching all of that through the lens of this is happening for me rather than to me. Everything that I experience and attract is showing up perfectly for my highest growth and benefit. And so being able to reflect on where we are in those moments of hardship. Is there something about this person or this situation that is maybe mirroring me, my current state? Or, maybe I'm going through a huge transition internally and up leveling and healing and facing a lot of these old wounds in myself that I've been carrying. And so, with that, I can expect a lot of things to blow up in my face. And how are those pieces showing up as just part of that process in my own reclaiming of myself? And relationships are big.
Mhm.
That's certainly been a theme. I think not just in 2025, but always. But 2025 has been a huge time of reflection
Mhm.
and taking a deep look at our relationships. I know for me personally as well. And so there's so much there when we look at our relationships, our friendships, our partners, the conflicts that show up in our relationships, our relationship to our children, and all of it is information for us, guiding us back to ourselves.
Mhm. When I'm looking back at some of the episodes, I see that we're also reframing some ways of thinking about ourselves that maybe used to be held more critically or judgmentally, like our episode Selfish or Self-Worthy, like claiming self-worth versus seeing it through a lens of selfishness. And the episode like Is She Crazy? Or I forget the rest of the title, but it was like how you can build more trust and love and acceptance for who you are and what you're going through and developing more understanding of it versus kind of casting these parts of ourselves off. And I think that's a really key piece in wholeness is not just the parts that are easy to love, but the parts that we've judged about ourselves or others or thought were wrong about ourselves or others, and bringing more compassion, more empathy, more curiosity to all of them to live more wholly and in connection to others. And what I love about True Northing is that we bring this depth of seeing. We look deeply. We don't take things at surface level. We kind of look at them through different angles. And I think what it does is that it allows for more self connection, it allows for more connection to others and to bring in those places that we've rejected into more love.
And through the self inquiry that we've been all kind of going through together through these conversations, that's where we meet ourselves. That's where we know ourselves. And something we've been talking about too, especially when it comes to relationships, is the responsibility to know yourself and what you're bringing, and also how important it is to be able to expect that in our relationships from the other people,
Mm.
that they need to bring a level of awareness too. And when we both have that self-understanding and that awareness of who we are and where we've been, even if that's it, that's we're simply aware and acknowledging. And even if there's no more beyond that, just how much richer relationships can be.
I resonate with that word responsibility that you had used at first of like, yeah, we have responsibility to know who we are. And especially in relationships, for both people to bring that awareness in so that we can relate in a way that's conscious and healing.
And I think previously in past years, awareness, self-awareness was like a nice thing to have. Like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if my partner understood these things about themselves? And I think in 2025, what we've seen is a transition into that being more of a requirement in
Mm.
relationship, in particular for women. I've seen in the women in my circle, in my work, w- there's there's a different energy now where that's kind of a foundational expectation in relationship now, is that self-awareness piece.
Such a great way to put it. Went from "Well, that would be nice" to actually this is a need. And I really do see 2025 as a year of a collective shift for women in claiming their own needs, pleasure, self worth, and just being like, whoa, 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 things are not right here. This is not sustainable. And looking around and seeing other women going through that as well. And maybe even experiencing shaky ground in themselves or their relationship as they're not able to tolerate what they used to be able to, or not able to have that same, that would be nice, but feeling something within themselves of, oh, I can't function here without that, or this relationship can't function here without that. And for whatever reason, 2025 feels like a big consciousness shift for women.
Yeah, what worked in the past is not working so well anymore.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. And so what do you see for 2026? What are we leaving behind? What are we stepping into? Where are you at with that?
I think we're leaving behind people pleasing and playing small and going along with status quo. There's a real shift, as we've been saying, towards truth and facing those hard truths, and not just accepting the bare minimum or even less than the minimum, like actually rising to meet our true needs and desires, and requiring certain things in relationship. So moving, I think in 2026, we're moving even more into, we're stepping into the real embodiment of who we are, who we came here to be, what kind of relationships we want to experience, connecting to our joy, our pleasure, doing good work in the world, just kind of like The word integrity comes to mind.
Mm.
Getting back in touch with alignment and integrity.
The word truth came to me. So those go so well together. Truth, like we're aligning with truth. And that is integrity, isn't it? To be aligned with truth. And yeah, truth in your relationships, true to your body and what your body needs, truth to your soul, to your inner light, to who you came here to be, true to your morals and your values, and being true in all of your relationships and in your work. And it's not in this like, I need to expose myself in every single thing of, like oversharing all the time, but just living in this full honoring of who you are and who you came here to be, what needs you have to be that. And to live in alignment and in harmony with yourself, with the earth, with one another. Mm. Truth and integrity and, like, no holds holding back on that.
No holding back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's almost like the feeling is you can't, even if you wanted to. It would be so uncomfortable to live out of integrity. Or in certain episodes, we've talked about like performance versus the real embodiment of yourself. Like you cannot perform. You cannot perform in life. You cannot perform for others. You can't wear a mask. And why would you ever want to? Because it gives this false idea of safety. But it's not safe anymore to not be who you are. Riveting.
Riveting. Well, I'm excited. I'm ready.
I'm excited too. I think of two other themes that go along with this letting go of people pleasing, letting go of not being who you are, letting go of the mask, letting go of performance is also tied into self abandonment and all the sneaky ways that self abandonment shows up. Self abandonment shows up not just in not being who you are, but in not caring for yourself, not honoring the living truth and needs that you have. Something that I've been looking at is overfunctioning and how overfunctioning shows up in all these sneaky ways as well. Even doing more self reflection than I should be, taking on the self reflection for others, self abandoning in order to meet others. And so those are two, well, three: people pleasing, over functioning, self abandoning. Those all go together. And so, inviting our listeners here, in what ways have you been self abandoning? And how can you bring in more claiming of your life, your pleasure, your self worth, your truth in 2026?
What does integrity look like for you?
Hmm. How does your truth live through you?
And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so that you get notified on future episodes when they come out so we can keep these conversations going. And we wish everyone a happy new year and a beautiful finish to 2025. And we will see you on the other side.
Yeah, we look forward to journeying with you all in 2026 and supporting us all on the way.
All right,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.